Hello everyone and welcome in. It is 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Thursday, July 21st, 2016, and you're here on the Earthquake 3D live stream where we cover the earthquakes which struck over the past day since my update last night, and we review the areas which were forecast and compare to the areas which were hit. And let's just get right into it, guys. If you were paying attention to last night's forecast and what we were watching for to develop in California, you'll already know, you'll see it on the screen here now, and you'll recognize it standing about above all others. A 4.7 near 5.0 earthquake struck in northwest California near the Gorda Escarpment directly by Eureka, California. And last night, in the update, 500 people in here heard me say it. I told everybody to watch northwest California for a 5.0 range earthquake to strike from the Gorda Escarpment going east to Eureka, California. And I talked about, do we really want to take the chance of it striking out to sea or on land? And it's a good idea to be prepared just in case. And now, as you see on the screen, a 4.7 struck the exact location. I'm going to turn this on full screen so you guys can see everything that I'm seeing, and it'll take away the view count for just a minute. But we're going to get the stats on this from the USGS, and you'll see Bayside, California standing out above as the spot which got hit, and I'm going to open up the coordinates from the USGS just to show you guys what's there and how close it is to Eureka. And then we'll explain why it struck in this spot as opposed to others. So there's Eureka. We're only talking just a few miles east of Eureka. But the spot in question is right along the Gorda Escarpment, and Gorda Escarpment actually goes onto land and meets up with the Front Range, part of the fault zone movement here that splits off and goes to the west. And last night, we were talking about how all these other smaller earthquakes had struck down the border of California, going out into Nevada and down to Southern California with stacks of earthquakes to the east-southeast. And when I saw the stacks of earthquakes, I told you guys last night, it's a sign that something bigger is pressing from the west-northwest, and it's displacing all of California going east into Nevada. Well, now that's given way with the 4.7 near 5 that we were talking about watching for, and it has struck. So people in California, you had a full 24-hour warning. That video is on my channel. So if you want to see the warning that was issued last night, it's up on my channel under the favorites. Copper Tropical recorded last night's update, and it's there for everyone to see. In addition to that, as if that wasn't enough, further movement started to occur to the east-southeast as well, spreading out across northwest Arizona and southwest Utah. And we talked about Arizona and Utah and how the pressure would transfer to the east, and we had to watch the Intermountain West going as far north as Yellowstone. And as you can see, the magma chamber around Yellowstone, starting in the park with micro-earthquakes, spreading out to the north, then to the west. This is all associated with the 11 Grand Canyons worth of magma down below in the Yellowstone magma chamber, which is just massive. It goes all the way over to the border of Oregon and up north into Montana. Further south, starting at Hoover Dam, going east-northeast in a obvious line or progression along a fault zone, you can see going into Utah, these earthquakes. Well, let's just jump over to Google Earth really quick and just take a look and see what's there for anybody who's curious. Here's our location in question, and earthquake starting right here in northwest Arizona. We have Black Rock Canyon volcanic buttes, Dutchman Draw volcanic buttes. And let's get the coordinates on this earthquake that's striking right near the border, near St. George, Utah. I just want to make sure I want to find out really how close that is to the Dutchman's Draw. Since, you know, it's like fate or something here is stepping in and saying, Yeah, look at it, it's right next to Dutchman Draw. That's the closest volcanic butte, actually. Or Little Black Mountain volcanic butte. On the side of Little Black Mountain, north of Dutchman's Draw. All right? So, okay, that's our micro-earthquake. Then we go west-southwest of there, and that takes us right down to near Hoover Dam. To the east-northeast, we go from that location up to the 0.9, 1.9, and 1.2, and we can just follow this up. Let's go look up the 0.9. Cedar City, Utah. Now, I don't know what's there. There might not be anything there of any worthy importance, but the other locations to the south are volcanoes at Dutchman's Draw and Little Black Mountain. And those are old volcanic buttes. I didn't name those guys. Those are, you can feel free to look them up and find out the information on those. Oh, all right. Well, look at what we have here. Wood Knoll Volcano and Black Mountain Volcano right next to Cedar Mountain and Lone Tree Mountain. That's really interesting. Or what do we got going on here? No way, old basalt? What is this, from an old volcanic butte? Did this erupt in the past? Sure looks like it. That looks like it's erupted in the past. You don't get stuff like that without... That's not a forest fire burn or anything, guys. This is basalt. Old lava rock broken down over time. A whole field of it. See that? Well, that's definitely associated with a past lava flow. It would be coming from Lone Tree Mountain. That we might as well call that Lone Tree Mountain Volcanic Butte. Right next to Wood Knoll Volcano. And what's the other one to the south? Black Mountain Volcano. Ah, more of the same on the sides of Black Mountain. So that's pretty obvious. Old lava flow in the past broke apart over thousands of years, covered by trees, and it's part of the Markagunt Plateau. Take a look at the Markagunt. There's so many different cones out here. I mean, there's dozens of old volcanic cones covered in trees, but you can definitely make those out. And the Markagunt Plateau, I mean, this one isn't even marked as a volcano, Henry's Knoll, but you can see it is an old cone. And these go off in all miles, let's see, several miles in every direction. These are lava flows. Right here, this is a lava flow. We have a volcanic butte right in the center. You can make out the cone shape on that, but it's surrounded for miles, just like what we saw in the other locations. No trees growing on that, letting you know that it's not that old of a flow. So the Markagunt Plateau is being struck all the way south to Dutchman's Draw. So that's the line of earthquakes right there. And then it goes further east-northeast. You can carry on up to the 1.9, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.8. Let's just quickly show you guys that. Okay, here's the Markagunt Plateau. Keep going east-northeast. And where does that take us? I mean, it's pretty obvious where it takes us. It takes us into a series of other volcanic buttes. And each one is very obvious, standing out. You don't have to take my word for it as to whether or not they're volcanoes. You guys can come check this out. Temple of the Sun Volcano. Well, yeah, I'll say. Look at those. That's interesting. Just the core of the volcano itself. Everything else blasted away over time. Okay, all right. Well, that kind of answers the question, what's there? And the reason those are being struck is the same reason that all the other volcanoes are being struck at the California-Nevada border. Mono Lake being struck, Mono Lake supervolcano. Let's show you that. The swarm. First, let's show you the swarm so you know what I'm talking about here. Right here at the center of the screen, well, there we go. See those? See that stack of earthquakes right here where it says 0.8? Well, there are other earthquakes that occurred there going down to the south, and when we take a look at what's there, here we go, starting to the north. Here's a series of old volcanoes: Aurora Crater, Aurora Peak, Mount Hicks, and an unnamed volcanic butte with an old lava flow off of it, and a mine right next to it. And then going due south, we have Mono Lake supervolcano. And then south from there, Mammoth Mountain. All three locations being hit by swarms. That's the locations right here you see on the center of the screen. Going further south, we have a valley right here, and see this 1.6, also 0.9, 1.7, and 1.9. That's down at the south tip of the valley. And what's down at the south tip of the valley? Well, take a look at it. Volcano Peak, Volcano Butte. These are lava flows as well. And it's part of the Coso Volcanic Field. Bunch of old obsidian buttes, domes, and it's a well-known volcanic field. You guys are welcome to look up that information as well. So all the magma chambers are being perturbed again over the last 24 hours since last night's update. Now, the most recent earthquake, basically a sign that whatever pressure we were looking for has occurred. The pressure is released. The larger earthquake has struck off the coast of California. Now we have to watch for similar movement to the east-southeast. And guys, when we really start to talk about the threat for larger earthquakes to strike, we have to watch the Intermountain West going into the fracking operations down into West Texas. So it goes all the way from Yellowstone down to West Texas as the next spot to watch. So, again, guys, here, 1 second, really quick, okay? All right, guys, sorry, I had to ask for a little quiet around here. All right, so anyways, I got sidetracked on that. We're watching on the West Coast. We're watching for this movement to press to the east-southeast. The pressure has given way off the West Coast. So people are asking me now, what about the Pacific Northwest, Dutch? There's a silent zone developing north of there that hasn't been hit. Will it be hit? Well, yes, it will be, but it'll be hit in the middle of the silent zone, which will be up to the north. And we have to look at the last over 24 hours of earthquakes to get an idea of what's going on around the rest of the Pacific. This will turn on the USGS feed. Okay? So again, West Coast, the earthquake that you guys were forecast to be struck by has now hit. And I don't want to hear anybody talk about how earthquakes can't be forecast. This is now a done deal. So when you look in the West Pacific, you're going to see a noteworthy lack of earthquakes since last night's update. All right, and so there's a huge silent zone that's developed out from Solomon Islands, Solomon Sea, going west-northwest all the way up into Kuril Islands. So this puts us in the middle of the central point of the silent zone is massive, but it takes us right down into, well, if we go all the way to the Aleutian Island chain and come halfway through the middle point, that takes us into Taiwan as a spot to watch. But what do we watch for? There's no magnitudes to base this upon. This is another one of these temporary silent events. We have to take it down another day to see any of the activity which struck. And when we take it down one more day, then you'll make out that we have a series of deep earthquakes striking right below East Timor, which is technically South Indonesia. So deep earthquakes mean shallower, larger earthquakes nearby, and it'll be in the nearby middle of the silent zone. And the middle of the silent zone, like I said, goes from Taiwan, but we have to take the other earthquakes into account. So we take the other 4.6 into account. We're already at the location near Taiwan, and we were previously watching Sumatra, Indonesia. Well, where does that put us? That puts us somewhere into Indonesia, Malaysia, or Philippines as the next spot to move, and it should be up to 2 magnitudes larger. Why do I say 2 magnitudes larger? Deep earthquakes. Deep earthquakes mean shallower, larger earthquakes. And just as we saw a day ago, when the 6.0 struck over here, it was preceded the day before by a 5, a deep 5. And I issued the warning saying, hey everybody, deep 5 has struck, watch for a shallow 6, then the shallow 6 struck. Now we have deep 4.6, which means we need to watch for up to 2 magnitudes larger to strike the nearby silent zone. Since, over the last 24 hours, the whole West Pacific has gone silent, we have to lean towards the middle portion, the fulcrum point, between the two spots that have moved. And that takes us again here into the far West Pacific. Watch for the activity to strike. Should strike in the next day. Should be up to 2 magnitudes larger than the 4.6 and strike the middle of the silent zone. After the shallow large earthquake strikes, then we should see it fan out around the West Pacific to other nearby areas. That could include Nepal, also into Burma, Laos, South China, the Himalayan range, but that will all come after we see this new, shallower movement strike. Central America, check it out. You guys also went silent pretty much over the last day. Not much activity striking since last night. Many people contacted me asking me what's going on. Well, silence is not our friend. We do not like to see silence develop out in areas that are normally earthquake prone. It's a sign always of building activity. So all of Central America has gone silent again over the last 24 hours. But there's a middle point between the two spots that have moved. Where is that middle point? We'll take a look at it. Here we have activity in America going down to the border of Mexico, and we have activity in Colombia and Puerto Rico. Well, the middle point between those 2 points puts us down back in South Mexico yet once again, and we have to base the movement that we're going to expect on the other movement nearby that's larger. Well, that takes us up into the 5.0 range. You look at the combined total of all the movement to the north, the fracking operations moving, the volcanoes moving, swarms of thousands of smaller earthquakes, or at least hundreds of smaller earthquakes striking. Well, the middle point, the fulcrum point between these 2 points that have moved, and we only have a small 2.5 down in Colombia, letting us know that it's going to be more to the south, pressing to the central south. Again, South Mexico's is the spot to watch for a new round of earthquakes to strike, and it should only be in the 5 range. Once the 6s strike over here, or the 6 strikes over here in the West Pacific, then we have to watch the East Pacific for larger movement. Wrapping it all up, we have to go down to South America. Whoops, got it turned around here. We have to go into South America, and last night we were talking about progression of earthquakes reaching south towards the South Sandwich Islands. Well, after I did the update, you'll see a deeper 3.2 strike here, letting us know the pressure is starting to transfer down underneath the plate. So it's going to be probably one more day before we see the larger earthquake develop out down here to the south. Keep watch. South Chile most likely will be hit. That central portion to south. Combined total of all the movement that we saw to the north over the past couple days, and to the past 24, it's been quiet, letting us know the pressure is building there as well. Quiet is not what we want to see in prone areas. Speaking of prone areas, Turkey keeps getting hit over and over again, and this is really interesting to see. Multiple 4s striking east of the Turkish border, going into Georgia, Russia. And the border region around Turkey keeps getting struck over and over again. Well, since then, we issued a warning for South Italy going east into Slovenia or Bosnia. And, I don't know if you'll see it on the screen here now, but Albania was struck, and that's right on the tip of Bosnia. So Albania struck to the east with a moderate 3.0 range earthquake. That's no shock, okay? Again, when we take a look at the activity, we were expecting it to press to the west-northwest. Speaking of pressing to the west-northwest, see these 3 earthquakes? All 3 happening on the flanks of the European plate. Starting at CERN, 1.5, Switzerland as they're going to report it, but CERN, Switzerland, then 2.5 in southwest France, fairly rare, then Portugal struck by a near 3. So all the 2.8s and near 3.0 earthquakes pressing to the west-northwest, causing major activity to develop out in areas where we don't see many swarms of earthquakes. When I say major, it's going into the 3 range, but we go into swarms. So this is like the multiple earthquake which just struck near Portugal over the past couple days. Signs that we're starting to see pressure build in Europe. What do we watch for in Europe going into tomorrow? Well, we're going to have to watch to the west-northwest from this location that's currently moved. This takes us back up to the English Channel, north into Belgium, Netherlands, right at the Belgium-Netherlands border possibly again, and going west towards the Azores. A combined total of all the movement that we see so far, so we're looking into that 3 to possibly 4.0 range to strike Azores, North Mid-Atlantic, Mid-Atlantic Ridge, somewhere between Svalbard and south to the Azores. So that's a really large area, but we can nail it down to most likely to the south since we're seeing movement creep all the way down here towards Portugal, going down towards the Canaries. Here's the Canary Islands down here, Azores here, Mid-Atlantic Ridge going up towards Iceland, which is right here, and then Svalbard all the way to the north. So Europeans, luckily you're going to get out of this with just small earthquake activity. Should only be in that 3 range. All right? So again, one more time. For everybody who's here in the chat, if you're new, I do earthquake forecasting every week, and I've been doing it for the last several years. Now, I think that let's see, how many people are in chat right now? 384. I think there's probably more than 300 people on the West Coast who would be interested to hear that you guys had a full day's warning for this 5.0 range earthquake to strike, this 4.7 in Eureka. You were warned last night in my update. It's on my channel. You can go watch it for yourself. Now, I don't know why it's not catching on. That I really am starting to think that many people just don't care or don't want to know when an earthquake's going to strike. Professionals don't want to know. Media doesn't want to know. Even the alternative news community, it just seems like they don't want to know. How could you explain this? Nailing an earthquake on the West Coast again and nobody notices. Just a few hundred people that even tune in. I would rely on you guys to share the news and get it out to the world and say, hey, this guy on YouTube has been forecasting earthquakes correctly for California. He's nailed the past several times, and we need to make note of this because, if I can't keep doing it forever. If people aren't going to notice, and people aren't going to care, at some point I got to pack up shop and just call it what it is. If people don't want to know, that's one thing, but I need to know. Is it something that I'm doing wrong? Is there something that's not appealing to you guys? You'd think a 24-hour notice for California would be a good deal, that people would want to know that. But it sure seems like they don't. And I know this because there's only 300 people turning up on my live stream, and I've got 150,000 subscribers. So, again, it is what it is. I can't do anything about that. All I can do is tell you that I told you last night. I hate to say I told you so, but I did specifically tell you so. So have a good night. I want to thank everybody who's getting the word out. You guys are very much appreciated. And, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be reaching anyone. It's kind of frustrating. But I challenge the media. I challenge scientists. I don't see how you guys can ignore me anymore. I understand your skepticism. But how can you be skeptical anymore? I named the Northwest California last night. It's on my channel. You don't even have to. You can just watch the update from last night and hear me talk about why we were watching Northwest California and why we were watching for a near 5.0 earthquake to strike. It's not just random luck. The professionals have weighed in on what they think is the deal with Dutch Sense, Michael Janich here, okay, me, and they say that I'm just getting lucky over and over and over and over and over again. I refuse to accept that. I'm not a lucky person. I don't believe in luck. I think luck is unscientific. I think if I was flipping quarters and landing 50 or 100 quarters on their head every time, that you would start to think there's something either wrong about the quarters that I'm using or that I'm the best quarter flipper in the world. And I refuse to accept either of those. Scientifically speaking, it's impossible to be lucky that many times. So much love, guys. Much love. Thank you for sharing. Please get the word out to your friends, family, loved ones, coworkers, professionals. Get the word out to other professionals. Your game is up. Earthquake forecasting can be done, and it's being done by a guy on YouTube who's showing you all up. Straight up. And I stand by it now. I'll testify to it in a court of law. We can present the evidence to a jury of our peers. Peer review? You want peer review? How about naming it publicly a day beforehand and telling people where to watch and doing it multiple times in a row over the past month? Not just getting lucky. Naming small areas. And if I don't tell you I got it right, nobody will. Who's going to come tell you? And I apologize if you